Got it. All right, so let me quickly show you the other option as well. So you have a option for a floor wireframe. So yeah, this is not in the manual. This is just me trying to be a bit more extensive with this so you can be familiar with all the tools. So you can just select here and select your create floor wireframe. You need to generate the sidewall first. So if you generate your sidewall, you will create a floor wireframe from this polygon. So let's just save it under example again and call this example 2. What else there? Okay. And press OK. And here you can see I just generated a surface wireframe from my my drive string. So let's say you have strings and you want to snap them, so you can just snap them to elevation. Because let's say you have a string here and you want to snap it to perhaps your surface wireframe, you can just use the snapping tool. So we just have the snap mode as well, so you can just snap it, or you can also use drape. So you can just drape your strings. Let's say your strings are on a different elevation. Let's say you did your design, these strings at 292, and they were a bit off. You can just drape them to this wireframe. So they will just drape into your surface wireframe. So it comes in handy if you want to use it for that reason as well. Okay, so here's a bunch. Here's the draping tool, and oh yeah. So if you have, for example, if you're doing a coal mine design, and you can drape, so basically all your strings, you can just design them at any elevation, and then you can just, you need an surface for your floor or your roof of your coal seam. So let me just draw again. So it's a cross section. I'm looking from the side inside of my coal seam. So a coal seam normally goes like this. So it's undulated. So you will perhaps draw your strings at a, let's say this is 280. So you can draw your strings at, for example, 400. Sorry, it should be more. So let's just say 40. And you can just draw your strings straight. And then you'll just use the drape tool to either drape it to the floor. So it needs to be a topo. So this is a topo. So you can just drape it to your roof, or you can drape it to your floor to have your strings. So the strings will just then follow this profile. Okay, so that is if you want, if you're doing perhaps a cool design. Just clear all drawings. So you'll use that tool there, drape on wireframe. Okay, so let's perhaps start with generating the tunnel wireframes. So you'll need, if you do scheduling, I'm doing the scheduling course tomorrow again. So if you haven't done scheduling, you're welcome to join tomorrow. But if you do your scheduling, you need your tunnel wireframes to be able to incorporate that into your schedule. I'm only doing the open pit scheduling tomorrow. We don't have an underground one currently. Let me just see. So now we can choose our tunnel profile. So let's just, for example, create let's just perhaps create one for our decline. So you can just select your decline and say center line to solid. option here. So here under profile shape tab, this is where you specify the shape. You can use a user shape as well. So you can come in here, and if you select user, you can set a string. So for example, new, and you can basically just design a shape, a tunnel shape under your design tab, and just bring that string file in, and it will then take that shape for you. We have predefined shapes here, rectangle, which is probably used for coal mines in room and pillar, and then where the stress is higher in underground gold mines, you're probably going to use a semicircular arch. So this will deviate the stress on the tunnel a bit better than a square shape. Because if you have a square shape, you have a lot of stress points here and fracture points here. But you can use this in shallow elevations, for example, coal seams. So let me just look at the exercise. So they want us to use a either a circular arch or a free-centered arch. So as you can see, the shoulders here of the tunnel is just going a bit wider than the circular arch. So let's use the free-centered arch, perhaps. And then you just take this away, and let's just use the ratio as a quarter, and the width and the height will be 2 and 2. Sorry, 4 and 4. So 4 meters wide, because our offset was 2 to the left, 2 to the right. Yeah, and I'll design. So that is our total width, and then you can rotate your shape as well if you want. So here is where so this arrow depicts where your string will be. So we want to let our string be in the center, and then it will generate the tunnel to the side, to the left and the right hand side. So we can just say our offset -2. So you can also, if you want, let your string be there. So then basically our tunnel will be below this elevation here, but let's just keep it at 0. Here under options. So there's a variety of options here. You can split your wireframes. So you can split them one wireframe per polyline. So if you have multiple polylines, you can just generate one wireframe per polyline if you want. You can create one wireframe per segment. So let's say you have segments in your string. So you can just generate, it will create one wireframe for each segment. So that is if you want to use the multiple split string option. And then if you do scheduling, if you're going to use the scheduling, I recommend split by length. So for example, if you want to advance 5 meters per blast, you can just split your wireframe, for example, by length of 5 for your tunnel. Okay. You can also split by parts if you want to, if you have a 100-meter drive and you want to split it into 5 parts, it will just be parts of 20 meters then. You can also just choose the orientation of your profile if it needs to be vertical, horizontal, auto. And then if you want volumes, you need to close your ends of the output wireframe. So it's the same as we did with the wireframe, where we generate our wireframe for our stopes. The ends weren't closed, so you can just say select here, close ends. So you can also prevent volume duplication, as I discussed earlier. So let's just not split it, because otherwise we're going to have numerous wireframes. We just want one wireframe. So we just want to save it. Let's create a new type. And we want to save it as underground drives 1. And so if you're going to do split wireframes, you can press your start number here your start number, and it will just increment it by this value that you specify here. So I'm just going to generate one wireframe. You can specify a name field, and we're just going to name it as, let's just call it decline. And let's make it the same, so it's that golden color. So you can see if you don't have gold here, you can just press F4. So if you select on a blank color here and press F4, you can go to custom, and then you can get a more precise color if you want. So gold, probably not about there. Press OK, and I will just auto load it. So you see I just generated one wireframe there, and I can create, sorry, what was, let me just check. Oh, that was supposed to be purple. Sorry, I'll just overwrite it. So let's just make it purple. Just use the stock one, so I'm just going to override it. Okay, so next is we want to do perhaps for our crosscut. So you can either come here and select both of them, then change line, and you can come here and just join them if you want. So let me just do a drive here and call it crosscuts. And let's just make it gold. And that's fine. We can just, so let me perhaps show you on the next one if you want to split it. So if you want to split it into 5 intervals, you can just come here and say split wireframes, split by length, 5 meter intervals. And I'll just increment it like this, crosscut, let's call it crosscuts. Well, let's just call it example because I want to create a new one. So you'll see now I created 26 wireframes there. Let me just delete them. Remove them from my physics. And I will just create a new one here called crosscut 1. And I'm not going to split it. I'll just keep it like this. Okay, so we can follow the same process here for our, so it's important what you save the name under, because you're going to use it. You need to link your ring design with it, or your development design first. So I'm just going to repeat the process here. And this will just be, let me just see, I think it's BDR2. And it's blue. And I will just do the exact same for this one. And this is BDR1. Okay, so now you have your wireframes. So you can see they are closed at the end. You can just validate them to make sure that they're all validated. And now you can get the volume, total volume there of your profile. Okay, so what is next? So you probably know this by now, but you can just save it as a form set. So let's perhaps save our underground design. And we'll just save form as, We'll just call it underground design. Press OK. And now you can just save these ones individually. So I'm just going to save this as PDR1, for example. So you can do the same for the others. Okay, let's just not waste time on that, but it's the same process that you can follow. Okay, so I've done that. So I'm just checking what's next. Okay, so next we can look at development drilling. So it provides mine planners tools to create a drill and blast plans for horizontal tunnels like this, or you can create a drill and blast plan for shaft. So if you're doing shaft sinking, you can also do your design on that. So it's organized in a heading design database. So let me perhaps, so let's perhaps create the development drilling database first, and then we can go through the tools. So yeah, under the dropdown, we have a ring design and a development drilling design option that you can choose from, or you can come to your mining tab, and here under production, you can select your design you want to start off with. So let's start off with development drilling. So on the input tab here, this is where you define your database. So this database will just store your designs on. So we can just call this dev drill database. So let me just quickly run through the tabs with you. So here on the tunnel, I see that I didn't add a name there. I'll just add that to the developers because it's new to 2021.5. It's a new feature. So I'll just tell them to add a name there for us. So let me check. So here is if you want to add an additional string. So you have your tunnel string, that you add a drive to your database. So what we're going to do, we're going to add our drives to this database. So once you added that drive, you can say, you can add the drive as a string, but we already have one, so it's fine. You can just create a new one, and it will just display the tunnel name as well. So it will just take the name that the tunnel was saved as, and will just display that name for you in BizX. So yeah, under tunnel wireframe, you can also show your wireframe layer. So it will just be this drive will just be create another drive. So just like a replicate, and it will add it to the database as well. So you can just click show if you want to show that wireframe as well. And then yeah, under heading, so you can display the heading name and the heading boundary as well. So under heading, under drill holes, you can here is where you can color code your drill holes. So uncharged, you can specify the color here of your uncharged hole. You can change the line type of them. Damage zones, so you specify like a radius of damage for each explosive hole, and it will show a damage zone. So it's sort of like a circular or just a circle around your collar. And here's where you can display your collars. So you can choose the default symbol you want to display your draw collars as. And then you can also add display all numbers. So if you want to display the number of each hole, you can also add that. So let's just go through. So every hole will be assigned to a number. So check if John is back. Okay. So here is just every hole will have its own number, so you can just display that. So you can go, once you've assigned the database a name, we can perhaps go to our tunnel, and we can just tick display tunnel name, and here we can show the wireframe. We can just change the default color to light blue. And sorry, it's our crosscut. We're going to do our crosscut now first. So let's just make it gold. And we want to add our transparency to 70%. So if you make it transparent, you're going to be able to see your draw holes. If it's not transparent, you won't be able to see your draw holes. But you can go inside of the heading tab, then you'll be able to see your draw holes. So let me check. Let's go to the draw hole tab, and then always display holes. So this is important if you want to see your draw holes and Vuzix as well. You can just display them here. If you only want to see your draw holes in headings, you can deselect this. But I'll show you now how you look at your design through a heading. Okay, so once you're done with that, you can just save your form as underground draining depth drilling. Press OK. So now we've created the database. So here is the database tools that you have, or our depth drilling tools that you have access to. So you can come here and create a new one if you want. We're going to add tunnels. So let me perhaps rotate this a bit. I'm going to take the slopes off because it's okay. We'll bring it back later again when we need to. So when we add tunnels, you'll just go to add tunnels here. You have the form option or you have the interactive option. So let's use the interactive option. I just want to show you. So here on the check. So it's important here. Here is your string name. It needs to match the name of your wireframe. So this is very important. The string name here that you defined need to match the wireframe name for it to link. So it needs to make this is just used like a key field. So it needs to associate one with one another. Okay, so just rotate your view. Let's perhaps, I'm just going to make sure if they have the same name. So you can see I don't have the same name for them here. So let me check. This is crosscut and this was supposed to be crosscut 1. So I'm just going to save it. And this is crosscut 1. And this is also crosscut 1. Okay, so now you can just add tunnels. So select tunnel string. So I'll just select that string and select your boundary wireframe. So now I created a link. So if I hide my drives, let me hide these ones. So you will see now it created just here under my development drilling design layer. It just created a replicate of my string. So it needs this in the database. So I just wanted to show you that. So let me just bring in. So you can see it's basically the same as this one. I just changed the transparency. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in this for display purposes. So here under hole types, this is where you define. So when you do your development drilling design, you can, each hole can have a different name. So it really depends on the terminology you use in your region. So in South Africa, we call contour holes perimeter holes. I think in Australia, they call it contour holes. So you can just change your name here to, for example, perimeter holes. So the contour holes would just rather be associated with perimeter holes. To reset it, you can just press auto folder grid, so it will just take it over. Okay, oh, let me just run through the whole type. So there is, this information is on the help function, but cut holes is basically gonna put like for example, on high burn cut, you have, this is where your initiation takes place of your development drill design. So it's a lot of it's an accumulation like of holes that has a specific pattern to set of the to like establish the initiation of your tunnel when you blast it. So it is normally like in, let me just annotate it. So if you have your tunnel here like this, you'll have your cut holes here. So this is like a 9-hole burn cut where I have 9 holes here in the center of my tunnel. And then you normally have relief holes. So it's perhaps like an uncharged hole in your cut. So it's like a larger hole that is uncharged. You also have reamer holes. So it's also larger uncharged holes, but created by a reaming bit. So you can perhaps have a reamer hole here and here and here. And then you have your floor holes, which is basically your holes here at the floor. And you have your, what's next? So you have your sidewall holes or your wall holes. And then you have your roof holes. You can just, if you want to save time and you don't want to have different names for them, you can just save them all as one name. So this is really up to your style of design. And then you can add your contour holes here in the middle. So let me just clear that. Clear all drawings. Close it. Okay. So now we want to create a new round. So I just want to show you how to create a new round. So you can just take a sip of water, sorry. So here under create new round. Let me just put my snapping on. So it's basically where you set the location of your, where you want your development drill to start. So I'll just create a new round. So I just want to put my snap to line. So just make sure, because if I just put it snap to point, you're gonna be frustrated, because now if you want to snap it here, you won't be able to, because it's only on snap to point. As you can see, I can only snap there. So just please change your snap to perhaps line. So if you want us to snap to a specific distance away, I recommend just perhaps add a point to your string so you exactly know how far you are, because here now you can't see how far you are in the tunnel. So let's just perhaps do a ring there so you can see it then creates the heading for me. So if you look at plan view, the heading will be perpendicular to your direction of your string for your heading. So you can create numerous of rounds. So you can also, yeah, let's first perhaps edit the round. So I'll show you how to copy the rounds. So once you select edit round, you select basically your heading, you press OK, and now you can see there's a bunch of new tools here at the top on the round editor. So normally if you're going to do your design, you're probably going to use a grid to ease with the design process. So and you're also going to use guidelines. So I'm just going to say edit guidelines. And sorry, I just want to show them first. So this is, it just takes the shape of your tunnel and it just brings it in for you. So you can design your jaws on these guidelines. So you can edit your guidelines. So you can see here's you choose your drive boundary as the shape. And you can choose the offset distance here. So I want to offset in this example to 0.15 and 0.65. So this will be my side walls on the side, floor, and I want to do some contours in the middle. Okay, so let's just go through. So yeah, you can add your walls. Let me check. So you can either add a drill hole individually by clicking on it and then specifying the location. You can add holes on the line. So let's perhaps add some holes here at the perimeter. So how I'm doing this is I'm just left clicking on my guideline. I'm just dragging around and I just released my left click. So it's just selecting my guideline for me. So your hole spacing, we have 3 options. You can use a fixed spacing. You can also use a target spacing or number of holes. I'll go through the difference now. So let's do an example quickly of fixed spacing. So let's make our spacing 0.5. Just to save time, I'm not going to go and save each hole separately. Let's just call them, for example, wall holes. So if you go in more detail, you can select your hole type here that you specified. So here is where you define your diameter of your holes. So let's just use a diameter of 50 millimeters and a length of 5 meters. You can add subdrills. So normally in practice, your cut will be deeper than your normal holes to avoid probably having sockets in the middle of your tunnel drives. So you can add a subdrill here. So you can add lookouts. So my perimeter is 0.15 away from these holes. So I'll just add a lookout of 0.15. So I'll show you now what the lookout is. So let me just press OK. So now I'm drilling inwards, as you can see. So if you want to rotate, which is not accurate because I don't want to drill inwards here, I want to drill outwards. So as you can see, to rotate, you press your mouse scroller and you press shift. So you rotate like this. So now you can see your drill holes. To get back to plane, you just, where is it now again? You say align view to working plane. Just get back to plane. So you want to drill to avoid damaging your sidewall and to create a space for your drill. The boom, for example, if you drill here, it's going to be difficult for the boom to, let me just put an annotation. So let's say, I can't zoom out now, so excuse. So if you have your boom, for example, here, if you want to drill here, it's very difficult sometimes to drill here exactly and drill in like this. So you'll just perhaps put your boom here and you will drill at an angle like this. I hope that makes sense. So, because it's very difficult for your boom to drill here on the sides exactly. So you normally just have a spacing here to create space for your boom. So I needed to go to, let me just add lines again. and I need to choose right of line. So you'll see now it will go to the right of my line. You can also add a radius of damage if you want to. So if you want to say they have a damage radius of 1, which is obviously way too large, 0.1. So you can just add the radius of damage here. So it really depends on the amount of explosives you use. So this is that you need to determine this value here. We'll go through charge groups now. So let me just add these holes here. And if I rotate, you'll see they are drilled at an angle. So this opens up. It tells you the lookout distance and the lookout angle. It also gives each hole a number. And let me just perhaps rotate so you can see now the top one, it's going up. So you can change these interactively. It just gives you the coordinate of the colors, the length of each hole, and then you go through a charge groups now, the massive explosives once you charge them. So here's a nice report that you have. So now we can do this one's we're not going to have a lookout because we just want to drill straight. Let me show you fixed spacing. So here under fixed is, you see it's 0.5. It's obeying to 0.5 distance between the holes, but now at a point, you're probably not going to have a even number. So it's probably going to end up at something like 0.3 at the end. So it can't fit exactly 0.5 in on this line. So you just rather use target spacing. So it will just try and get as close as possible to 0.5. So this is probably approximated overall under 0.5. Then let's just change this to contour holes, and we will reduce the spacing a bit. You're probably going to have less spacing here because this is where you want your precision to be at your side walls to prevent damage. So you can just press OK, and now you can see I have my contour holes here. And now if you perhaps want to add drill holes individually, you can just click on add drill hole. What was my diameter? 50. So let's just add a drill individually. My length was 5, and I'll just call them contour holes as well. And here is where you define your bearing. Let's say you want your, if you are developing in the opposite direction, you can just change the bearing here to 180. So your drill hole will be in the opposite direction. And I'll just add the hole. So let me put my snapping on. So I'll just snap to golden grid. So you can just create your drills like this individually. And then you can perhaps add a cut here. So let me make a cut here at the center, around about here. So you just use your, make a new polygon. And I'm just going to create a quick square here. And let me create a line here in the middle. So let me check. So you can create your cut here. So this is just for you to have a reference. So let me see. So if you want to create holes here now, you'll just go holes online. Oh, let's rather, you can rather do this. It's probably easier. So you just add holes individually. So your reamer holes, you probably add your diameter of 100, so it's a large hole. And you'll just select them here at the perimeter. And then I can just finalize my cuts. Sorry, this was supposed to be cut holes. So let me just undo them. So let me change them to cuts like this. And now I just want to add ones with a 50 millimeter diameter. And there is my 9-hole burn cut that I created. So you can just delete the string. So if I rotate now, you will see the drill holes there to see if they're not probably intersecting one another and to see if the profile is right. So just save your template. So you can just save this as a template if you want to copy it to a new heading you want to do. So let's just call it temp div and just call it example. So just basically save it as a template. And then you can, if you add a heading, if you add a new heading, you can just load that template. So I see we're running out of time. Let me just be quick here. Now we have a consumable library pod. So let's just quickly do that. So here under consumable library, you can add your chart, your consumables that you're going to use. So it's basically you put in all the explosive you have here in your magazine. So I'm just going to be very quick here to, otherwise we're not going to touch string design. So I'm just going to call my bulk explosive here info, density of 0.8, cost of $2,000 per ton, and you can just change your color here. And the next one, we will use perhaps emulsion, density of 1.2. Sorry, this is not in a manual, so I'm just showing you, and it has a different cost. And it is orange. You can add package explosives if you want. So let's perhaps add, back plus to define the density, the cost per item, diameter, and your length of your cartridge. And now on the other, so this is where you define like your stemming and your stemming cost. So let me just say stemming, density of 1, cost will be 150. Because it's basically just clay, it's cheap, and then plug. If you want to use plugs to plug your wall at the end, just perhaps make it gold. And detonators, here is where you define your detonators that you're going to use. So detonators have delays. So your burn cut will go off first. So you can, for example, use a 50 millisecond delay. 15, the cost of 2. And you can set the symbol here and the color of your detonator. And let's use 30 milliseconds for our pivots. And they are the same costs. And I want to display them as blue. Okay, boosters. Let's just use a booster. So basically, by placing in a detonator in a booster, you're ending up with a primer. So just say Pentex. G. So yeah, detonator sets off the booster. You basically put in the detonator inside of your booster and 110. And the cost is perhaps 10. And you can add surface connectors as well. So let's press OK. So now we can perhaps rotate this a bit. And we can create a new charge group. So here is just where we define our consumables, and now we're gonna define a group. So it will just follow that group, that charge group that we want our holes to be charged with. So let's look at the generic one first. So let's make just a new one called generic burn cuts. And here is where you define how you want to charge your holes. So here you bring in your consumable. So if you want to add stemming, I just want to add first in stemming. So this will be from the color of your hole going inwards. And then I want 1 meter stemming. I want emulsion to be 3 meters. So you can add your cartridges if you want. I'm just going to use emulsion. So I want another stemming perhaps of 0.5. How much do I have here? Because my total length is 5, so 1 full. So I need 0.5, sorry, emulsion. So we're 0.5 mol here now. And now you specify your primer. So I'm doing my burn cut. So I'm going to use my 50 millisecond. So here's your primer combination. So you're detonating your booster. I'm just going to use Pentex, and I'm going to use 5 meters inside. So there I created my burn cut. So now let us charge our burn cuts. So luckily I saved them as cut holes. So I can just filter them. And I'm going to filter them by my cut holes. So now I only see my cut holes. I can highlight them. And I can assign a charge group. So I'm just going to assign my generic burn cut. Press OK, press close. And I'm just going to remove this, press OK. And now you can see I charged my cut holes. So my stemming is brown. Probably not the best color, but here you can see my stemming, emulsion, stemming, emulsion, and then my primer. Okay, and then let me save it. I'm just going to overwrite it. And now you can plot your holes as well. So you just go plot around, and you will just choose your plot file. And I probably need to auto load it first to save some time. You can just plot your round, and you can just pan it, pan data to probably sense it. But yeah, I'm not going to go into detail there. Here is that you can print out and give it to the guys in the field. So it gives you the amount of consumables they need to use, the total meters drilled. You can get this in a summary as well. So you can export this as a summary if you rather want it as a summary or a file rather than on a plot file. And then this is just charging instructions. So holes and the diameter of each hole. Okay, so if you want a report, you will just come here and say summary report and create. Like, for example, if you just want your consumables, you can just create a report on them. So let me just see. Consumables. Heading design. Why isn't it opening now? Can we run it again? Where did I save it under? Just go and look for it quickly. Report file. And there was an error there, but yeah, let me just show you quickly. summary report. Just want to check if I'm saving it at the right place. Let's perhaps create a rule summary as well. One more round tunnels name does not exist. Just checking now. Oh, I need to specify the name. Sorry, I need to specify the name of my rule summary. I didn't create one yet. But yeah, let me rather save it like this and call this one. Okay. Yeah, so if you want to create a summary report, and you can just come here. I'm not sure why it's not showing. Nice. Oh, there we go. And then you can just open it up here. And here is my round. So you can just open these up and you get a report on them here if you want to. Probably I can open them now, but otherwise, yeah, let me just do ring design now, but you can get a report. So this is just a report I generated. So you can get a report on your consumables and so forth. So it's basically the same as in your plotting, but let me just quickly do ring design. Otherwise, we're gonna run out of time. So let me close this. So if you want to change the right direction, you'll just make your bearing 180. So your drills will be to this side. So it depends on which side you're advancing. I'm advancing now from left to right. And now you can see your charging. So let me just show you how to copy them. So to copy them, let me go to development drilling. You'll just say replicate round. And I want to perhaps add 5 new rounds to the end of my tunnel, and I want to copy the holes. So now you have your holes copied. So replicate is just to create multiple copies, where copy is just you select the round you want to copy and you select the position you want to copy it to. Okay, so that is depth drilling in a nutshell. So let's just quickly tackle ring design drilling. So yeah, is where you also create a ring design database, same as with your development drilling. So yeah, if you guys don't understand the difference between development drilling and ring drilling, just shout out. I can quickly explain to you, but otherwise, if all of you understand, I'll just continue. So it's basically, we're just going to drill into our stopes now. So let me just go to the exercise, save time. So let's just create a new one called, so you right click here and say ring design 1, press OK. And here is the same settings for our, let me just change this to light blue. As for our depth drilling, display the hole numbers. And I want to display them in Visix as well. So you just basically create your ring design. You can see there's a bunch of new tabs that's popping up here. Because it's a bit different than the development drilling. So let's perhaps add our drives. So we need to follow the same process to add our drives to the database. So we'll just go add drives. Now we need to select the drives. Let me just make sure my naming is correct. VDR1. Let me just rotate. VDR1. Okay, happy with that. So I'll just add drives, select my string, select my wireframe boundary, and now let me just hide my PDL one. So there is my drive. So now I want to bring in my stopes because we want to drill into our stopes. So I'm going to bring in OptiStopes and I'm going to set it to 3D. So you can see my tunnel is going through my stope. So now I want to create a wireframe, or from my wireframe, I want to create a boundary where my drilling should end. So we're just going to use our stope wireframe as the boundary. So yeah, you will just say from boundary, but you first need to create your ring position. So I will just create a new ring and place the ring here. And now I will say from wireframe. So here it says select the existing drives. And now it says select the wireframe. So I'm just going to bring it in my stopes. And I'm going to select this as my profile shape. So now you can see it is obeying to the shape of my stope. Let's say you don't have wireframes and you rather want to use your block model. Okay, now the block model is not going up, but it's fine. Just to explain it, you will come here and you will say edit boundary. So if you have, I will show you now inside of the heading how to do it. So let me just hide this. And now you'll go edit ring. You select your ring you want to edit. And here is my depth drilling close by as well. So now you can see a new tab that pops up here. Sorry, I'm probably going to go a bit over because I showed you some just additional examples. You can come here and say edit boundary. So this is where you digitize it manually. So if you want, let's say you have your block model and you want to drill here, you can just come here and say edit boundary. So it will just basically, sorry, I already created one here now, so I can't, but if I didn't create this, you'll just say edit boundary and you will just draw a string around your block model where you want to blast. But I already selected now, it doesn't allow me to digitize a new profile because I used from wireframe. Okay, so now once you're here, let me just unselect edit boundary. So if you rotate, you can just go back to view ring plane. Okay, so here is where you define your drill rig options. So it's basically just like a string file that you bring in. You can design your own drill that you want, and you can also specify the boom pivot points from where your drill should be positioned, and also how the drill holes are measured. So we're going to generate a fan because it's a shape of a fan. This profile allows for a shape of a fan. You can also generate a parallel fan. So this will just, you see I can't drill here because my boom is passing my tunnel. Because obviously you can't drill like this. So if it's a solid line, you can drill there. So I'll just perhaps start my drilling here and I'll just rotate it. And I'll just want my boom pivot point to be 0, 0. So my drill will be right at the bottom. And here is where you specify your spacing of your drill holes. You have, so inside, so you can see the T you specify here. So it can be measured in a variety of ways. Let's just use toe inside, and we have a drill spacing of 2 meters. You can also add the charge details there, and you can create offset. So if you want to drill perhaps 0.5 meters past your boundary, so you can preview it and press OK. So you can see I drilled 0.5 meters past my stope, just to make sure I'm blasting everything. And then to charge your holes, you can basically, oh, and let me perhaps show you, let me quickly. So if you want to perhaps you can delete a drill hole. Let's say you're not happy here and you want to add a drill hole manually. You can just come here and you can add a drill hole there manually. And you can just renumber your holes then if you're not happy with the sequence. So there I can just renumber them. You can also adjust the hole. So if you want to add, okay, this one I want to add offset now, so I can adjust it and create a offset of 0.5. You can also adjust multiple drill holes. So if you want to rotate holes, so you can change the drill hole with reference to these two drill holes by just changing the angle here. What is it? What else is it? You can delete the drill holes. Okay, I covered that. Edit drill holes. You can edit the drill holes. So you can just change the, let me choose this one rather, edit multiple drill holes. I think it won't allow me because my boom will cover here. I need to make the boom smaller. Yeah, it's not going to allow me, but if you have space, you can rotate. You can, sorry about microphone pros now, you can rotate your drill holes there. Hope it gets back quickly now. And then the last thing while we wait, let me just check what else. So fan, parallel fan, it is just basically creating drill holes parallel to one another. So it won't be a fan like this. And I'm just going to close it. Yeah, so that the fan one is just holes that's parallel to one another. Okay, sorry, I went there through a rush. So let me just stop sharing now.